Hi, my name is Ivy Starnes, and I'm a gaited horse trainer in Fort Worth, Texas. This is video 1 of how to train your horse to drop the head. This is somewhat of the boring video because I'm mostly talking, but I'll be answering questions as well, kind of a Q&A based on feedback that I got from different people. And at the end of the video, I'll do live Q&A. So if you have any questions, make sure you write them down and we'll come back to them. We're going to talk about why head down is so important, and it's important for all horses, but especially gaited horses, and especially pacey horses. So we're going to go through some questions that I have that were given to me, and the first thing I'm going to bring up on this topic is that head down is a way to facilitate the horses lifting their shoulders and their backs and stepping under with the hind end. A lot of people, head down is kind of a lot of people think that you just do head down, but head down is a means to an end. It is a way that the horses naturally bring their backs up. Instead of being hollow, they're bringing them up, and we want them to drop their head enough so they lift their shoulders, but not so much so that they go on the forehand and lose their balance. Because gaiting is about balance and strength. As they put their head down, they also start to engage their hind end. And this is really important as you work with your horse to understand we want the back to be loose and free to move, and the pace is stiff. The pace is the back tightening up and on the one side going back and forth, and there's not a lot of relaxation there. And so that's one reason. Now, I also use head down. The other main reason I use it is to train relaxation. So not only to lift the back, but to get the horse to pay attention to you and to relax. Because when the horse's head is down, they are not tense. When the horse's head up, they're always tense and nervous. And I had a horse that came to a clinic, and we worked on the gait and got nice gait, but she asked me to work on spookiness, and I was like, I don't do that at my clinics. I don't do bomb proof. I said, but we'll see what we can do. Well, the horse never spooked that whole weekend, but we worked on head down for sure because he was kind of high-headed, and the owner understood and wrote at the end and got head down. She emailed me a couple months after the clinic, and she asked kind of what I did to her horse because her horse stopped spooking all the time. Now, I'm not going to guarantee that doing head down means they won't spook. They still will. But head down is a horse that is more likely relaxed. And so not only is it important for you to practice this at home and working on the gait, but anytime a horse's head is up, I'm working on head down. Why do horses put their heads up? Well, horses put their heads up a couple different reasons. One, muscle memory. If they have been ridden or even just in the pasture, they're used to having their heads up. They will carry it there because the muscle memory is easier for them to carry it with their head up. Now, bad training, bad riding, bad tack, injury can all contribute to the fact that your horses are now putting their heads up, and we have to work to get them to drop it because they don't understand English. I like to use this analogy. So we all know that we should sit up straight, right? We all know we sit in front of the TV, we drive our car, we should sit up straight. And we know it's better for us long term. But how many of us, myself included, slouch in the car, sitting in front of the TV, sitting at a computer, which I do a lot? We slouch. We know slouching is not good for us, but we do it anyway because it's easier. Our muscles are here. We don't have the muscles built to stand upright. Well, horses are that way, only worse, because a horse doesn't know that the wrong posture is bad for it. We can't tell him that, and he doesn't know that. So we have to help him put his head down, and not only put it down, but keep it down. And again, if you're just tuning in, we are going to have, this is the first video of at least 5 videos that I want you to watch all of them. Because in the future videos, we're going to look at examples. This is a Q&A, and it's the foundation of why we train head down. Why head down? Well, I already talked about using the back. When the horse drops their head, they start to use their back properly. Some horses, once they put their head down, they immediately start gaiting. Some horses need additional exercises, which we'll talk about that at the end of the video. The other question, which is really good, and a lot of people were confused. I have 2 things that people have been confused on. So if people don't hear anything, I want them to hear these 2 things. There is a difference if your horse is trotty or pacey. Head down encourages the trot. Now, by saying that, if your horse is trotty and you do head down, that's excellent. It's relaxation. It's a lot of benefits. They're going to use their back better. But it won't fix a trotty horse's gait. Okay, let me say that again. Head down doesn't fix a trotty gait. It's a good thing to train. And I still do it even if the horse is trotty, but it doesn't fix a trotty gait. It's used for pacey horses. So head down is very beneficial, but it won't fix the trotty horse's gait. You have to use other exercises like head up and some other things, and I have a whole video on that. The second thing that is most misunderstood, so that was the first one. Use head down to get pacey horses to gait or to start trotting. The second misunderstood thing is that you hold the reins until the horse drops their head. And that is not accurate. What we're doing when we ask for head down, which I'm going to try to demonstrate in the future videos. Again, this is video 1 of many videos. What I'm asking is I hold contact on the reins and I'm not asking for them to drop their head. That's the thing that's hard, is I'm actually asking them to soften, to break at the pole, to bring the nose toward the chest, vertical flexion. That's what it's called. And when they do that, I release the reins, big release, like I drop the reins. And if the horse puts the head down, the reins stay loose. The minute the head starts to come up, I ask for the head to go down again by holding contact, and I want the horse to soften, and then I drop the reins, completely drop the reins. Okay, most people, when they watch my videos or when they hear me say that, they go, oh, we want head down. And so they release the reins when the horse drops the head. Now, what that does is it teaches horses that when you hold contact, pull their head down, and they pull the reins out of your hand. And that's not good. So that's actually one of the questions, and I'll just address it now. So what if your horse pulls the reins out of your hands because they put their head down? Well, I'm going to say that the most likely cause is that you didn't train softness. Give to the bit first. You trained, I'm going to hold contact until you put your head down. And so they've learned it. They've learned that when you hold contact, they're going to put their head down. But by doing that, they pull the reins out of your hands. So watch these videos. Focus on softness, whether you're using a snaffle or a bitless bridle. This holds true. You want to teach the horse to, when they feel that contact, then they're going to immediately soften. And actually, this horse is a quarter horse, but he's trained to soften and give his nose. And so I'm going to mute that. So this is a horse who, when you pick up on the reins, he knows to bring his nose in, which is called vertical flexion. So you can see him tucking his nose towards his chest right there, and then she releases the reins. She doesn't hold him in that position. And that's what we want for our horse, and he's also dropping his head. What we're doing is we ask him to do vertical flexion, to bring his nose toward his chest, and then we do a big release. We drop the reins. And then we stop and praise because we're working with horses that don't know. This is a horse already trained, so we were just demonstrating what it looks like when a horse is really, really soft and gives to pressure. And I want you to realize that it's bringing the nose in. It's not throwing the head down. When the nose comes in, then you release the pressure. The next question I often get is, how much contact should you have? Now, let's say you're starting with a horse that's never had it done before and you ride at the walk and you're riding on a circle. And again, you watch the next videos because they're going to show you how to do this. How much contact do you put on both reins? All right, I have here this handy dandy electronic scale and I have it in pounds. Now it's set to ounces, okay? So handy dandy electronic scale, and I go around at clinics and I do this without scale, but I do this with rein so people can feel how light I am. So when I'm walking around, whether your horse is bitless, and snaffle, this is how much contact I have. Very light, just a finger, and sometimes a little more. Sometimes it's closer to 5 or 6. And when they go faster, I will tend to put a little more contact on, okay? So I wanted you to see that, 5.8 ounces. All right, and pounds. So pounds, that's 0.165 pounds. No, 0.36 pounds. I was looking at kilograms. I don't know if anybody here is kilograms, but let's just do, it's about this much. There you go. 125 kilograms to start with at the walk. Now, this doesn't include stopping the horse or pulling if I need them to slow down, but if I'm just asking them to soften, that is how light I'm being. And yes, that is extremely light. But it's important that you start that light because that's how light I want the horse to be. And I don't increase the pressure. So I ride the horse in a circle, which you'll see demonstrated, and I hold contact on both reins. Very light contact, less than a pound of contact, and I maintain that contact on the circle. It's really important to not just pull harder if the horse doesn't do it. And it may take 5-10 minutes that first time for your horse to get it. But you want to wait and you want to be patient. So some people ask about neck reining versus direct reining. The horses I get at my clinic, most are direct reined, which means you plow rein, you use 2 hands. And that's how I train, even for horses that are neck reined. I go back to using the direct rein for this because I have a better feel. Now, some horses really are neck reined, and in which case I ride them one-handed. It's very rare, but it does happen. And I do the same exercises. I try to be very, very light, very soft and gentle, and it's not about how fast I can get it, it's about getting them to soften. Should you do this training in a snaffle, shanked bit, bitless? Well, my preference to do especially this training, the softness training, which you should do in an enclosed area that's safe, then you should do it later on. Once the horse knows it, you should do it everywhere. But my preference is to use a simple bitless bridle, no leverage, or a snaffle bit. The reason is the shanked bit can make you feel like your horse is artificially light and listening. I had a horse that was pretty light with his bit, with a shanked bit. We switched to an even milder bit and then to a snaffle. And when we switched to a snaffle, we found out that horse was not actually very light. He was responding to the harshness of the bit and needed to be retrained because the owner said he responds to seat. But when we switched to a snaffle, he didn't respond to seat. And it wasn't that he responded to seat before, it was that you just needed such a light contact to make a change when you were riding him with a shanked bit. So I recommend you do this training in a snaffle or a simple bitless bridle and do it and get them really soft and light. That's my recommendation in the snaffle. All right. So a lot of people ask how low it's low. Every horse is a little different. I want to show you some basic principles. It's called lifting the base of the neck or lifting the root of the neck. And it's something that you can find. You can look up Dr. Deb Bennett and her work on lifting the root. And her work is phenomenal. And this is a video that I made. And this is an Arabian saddlebred, Arabian saddlebred. He didn't gait. And some people have gotten upset that I've used a horse that doesn't gait, but the principles are the exact same, whether the horse is gaited or whether they're not. And so what we're looking for is a long neck and an open throat latch. So we want the top line to be longer than the bottom. And this is day 3 of a clinic, so we've already done head down. And I want you guys, I'm going to skip ahead here a little bit, to see that we've got these beautiful shaped muscles as the horse is starting to lift his shoulders. But let me say this, some horses need to put their heads a lot lower than this horse to look like this. With their heads at level where this horse is, they wouldn't be lifting the base of the neck or lifting their back. And you notice his nose is in front of the vertical, which is good. You'll notice that the top line is longer than the bottom. And you just watch for the beautiful arched up. You do not want it pushing down. Let me skip ahead to, there we go. Sorry. So this is now that same horse. He's just going to move now. And in movement, we want to start to see that head stays level or low, not in a perfect position, not holding the bit. You can see the reins are loose, and you see I still have that nice long muscle. You won't see that if your horse's heads are up, and you're going to see this horse where he started. This is day 3 where he kind of ended, but this, and you can see here a little bit. I'll just let this play. This is lifting the base of the neck, and he's much better about keeping his head down. But initially, he was very high-headed. So here he is on day 1. You can see his head's much higher. He's resisting the reins a little bit more, and I was looking for him to soften, just like I'm going to teach you to do. and there he's softened, and then I'll release the reins. I can't remember if I was asking him to trot or not, but you can see how he'll tuck his nose, but he'll keep his head up, and it doesn't have as nice muscling as when he starts to drop. And by dropping his head, his trot smoothed out as well because he was able to use his back. You can see that whole video on my private training group. There you go. That's my plug. So on that same note, I don't believe in holding the reins tight in order to get gait. I believe in loose reins. Now, how loose depends on each rider. I don't believe that gaited horses need collection. I believe they need balance. I don't believe they need to bring their nose in. I believe they need to drop their head and use their back. And they're very different things. Collection is very specific. It's rocking the weight backwards and being able to move in any direction. Gaited horses just need to be balanced and using their body well and relaxed. That's what I believe. So I don't want to set the head. I don't want that nose to stay in. I don't even want the head to stay at one level. I'm willing for them to move it up and down as long as they maintain gait and relaxation. The next question is, I can get the head down at home but not on the trail. And that's a great question, and it's a problem a lot of people have. You want to make sure you're doing work at home and getting the horse really good, and then take your horse to different locations, whether it's a friend's barn, whether you go to a trail ride and you decide to never leave the parking lot or the campground, and you do the same head down training there as you do at home. A lot of people, they take their horse, they saddle up, and they go on the trail ride, and they haven't done any prep work. And there's whinnying, there's usually dogs. Is it any wonder that they won't drop their head? You need to do the same prep work there, and then once you've done prep work, go on the trail, and preferably with someone that'll allow you to stop and pace when your horse does a good job. But the biggest thing is also make sure you've trained the softness, and you're always releasing when the horse slows down or gives their nose. A lot of people want to hold the reins tight because it feels safer. Don't do that. So this is actually a really good question. I don't get asked this question a lot. It says, can you get a horse to set in gait first and then head down, or is it better to do the same thing, to do them at the same time? So most horses won't gait with their head up. There are exceptions, of course. They're horses. Most horses won't gait with their head up. You need to train head down to get the gait first. But let's say your horse, you're working on gait. Whenever you bring a horse to me, the very, very, very first thing I work on is head down, which is equal to softness. That's what you get first, and you release the reins. That's what I work on first, no matter what the breed, no matter, if they're pacey or trotty, I always do softness and head down. And it always speeds up the process of getting gait if the horse already knows those at the walk and the faster speed. And that's something I haven't addressed. So in future videos, you're going to see me starting this at the walk. And most people have no trouble getting the horse to put their head down and soften at the walk. What they have trouble with is doing softness and head down at the faster speed, whether it's the trot or the pace. And I agree, this is harder, but it is super important. So let's say you have a pacey horse, which is most gaited horses. You've already got softness and head down to the ground at the walk. You've got that no problem at home. He'll do it for you. Other places he's calm. Then you speed him up and the head skyrockets. That's normal, unfortunately, but then you need to ask him to go faster, maintain a slow speed. So if he's pacing, slow pace, don't let him go fast, and go in a circle. It'll probably be a little bigger than at the walk because they're going faster. And you're going to do the same training. You're going to hold contact on both reins and ask for softness. And when the horse softens, drop the reins. And usually this takes a few 15-minute sessions, and that's it. But if you don't do it, you won't get it. And a lot of people don't like it because it's uncomfortable to ride the bounce. And some horses are worse. And yes, I have to ride them occasionally. But doing this sometimes that's all you need to fix the gait. And yes, that head will pop back up. And as soon as the head pops back up, ask them to soften again. Very simple. Kind of. All right. Let's see if there's any more questions. Okay. One of the last questions here. One of the last questions we have is, one of the last questions I have for you is, you're doing the head down exercise, you've got it at faster speeds, what if your horse still paces? Well, you're in luck. There's 3 things you can do to help the horse not pace. 1 is you can use ground poles. 2, you can use leg yield, which is an excellent exercise for any horse, and especially gaited horses. I highly encourage it. And 3 is stop, back up, and go forward, which I talk about in my gaited DVDs, because I use that almost exclusively along with the head down to get gait in just a few days. We're going to be covering a lot of these topics in future videos and demonstrating them. But I wanted to do just this basic Q&A, and I'll open it up if you're on the live video to asking questions, and I'll go ahead and answer those.